Hey guys, Chris from HockeyTutorial here, and today this is the last video that we do of the year. We didn't do one last year, but I promised I would do one for the end of 2024, and that's the HockeyTutorial Equipment Awards, or essentially rating the equipment that the manufacturers have created over the course of 2024. So bear in mind, the majority of everything that we look at is going to be specifically to this year. And if you've not seen these videos before, I'll link down below the previous versions of these that we've created because there's been quite a few. So this is the HockeyTutorial Manufacturer Gear Awards 2024. Let's jump in. And of course, before we get too deeper into the video, I wanted to mention that a lot of you guys that watch the videos and always come back aren't subscribed. We're very close to 200K. So if you could, pretty please subscribe for me, get us to 200K so we can keep growing, keep making these videos, keep getting access to awesome products. And there's a ton of unreleased stuff that we can't wait to share with you that we already have and we're going to see in 2025, early 2025. So if you've not done so already, subscribe, and also make sure you check out the merch. All of it will be linked down below, as well as the custom HockeyTutorial jerseys. Let's go. Now, instead of boring you by going through every single category list by list, we're just gonna put them on screen. The first one, and probably one of the most desirable ones, and I think it's probably going to be the majority of the content that we've produced for this year, is sticks. They're probably the most expendable piece of equipment that a hockey player has, aside from things like tape. So it means that a lot of players will go through them quite quickly over the course of the year. Now, this year we've seen new manufacturers enter the scene. We've seen some older manufacturers kind of come back and create equipment better than they've ever done so before. So I think now is probably one of the most challenging times to try and say which is the best stick of the year. Now, let's not forget, of course, there are different types of player profiles and preferences. So it means that if you like a low kick point stick as a hockey player, your teammate might like a mid kick or a high kick stick. Now, we have considered that, and that's why this year there's going to be 2 sticks for each of those categories. Mid kick, which I feel makes more sense than doing a high kick point stick because who even makes high kick anymore? And then, of course, a low kick point variant as well. Now, if you guys saw the video that we just posted last, which was Tommy's end of year stick ranking video, where he ranked the sticks on different elements and gave them a score out of 10. Now, this video is easily going to give away which are the top contenders for the best stick of 2024 if you've seen it. If you haven't, I'll link it down below. We've gone through as many sticks as we can get our hands on this year. There's a couple of sticks that we haven't managed to get our hands on, like the Smoke from True. If there's any others that you think that we need to take a look at, comment down below and let me know. But out of the sticks that we have taken a look at, the top contenders for low kick point and also mid kick point sticks is going to surprise you. A lot of you are going to be sitting there thinking, here we go, CCM's going to win again. But they're not actually even in the rankings. And the reason for that is if you watched the video we posted last, Tommy broke his Trigger 9 Pro at the blade and he was devastated about it, but we can't rank a stick the best stick of the year if it broke during usage and testing. Now, quite surprisingly, the manufacturer that actually takes the cake for both of these categories is Warrior Hockey. In terms of the mid kick, it's the Warrior Novium 2 Pro, and the low kick point is the Warrior Covert QR6 Pro. Both of these sticks were, if you watch the ranking video, some of the highest ranking sticks that Tommy had used, excluding the KYC stick. The reason that's not taking the crown for low kick point sticks as well is because that also broke. Regardless of how it broke, if it broke, we can't give it the top spot. It's still ranked incredibly high. But in terms of the most consistent sticks that we have both used for the entire course of the year, it was the 2 Warrior sticks, which is insane to think a manufacturer is producing sticks that takes the crown for both categories, low kick point and also mid kick point. This ties into the look of the sticks, the grip, the feel for the puck, the shot, and most importantly, the durability, including if the blade went soft after over 6 months of usage. These were some of the only sticks that we had seen that not only outperformed all of the other sticks that were available, but also maintained their durability, their stiffness, their pop throughout the entire course of using the sticks. So in terms of the best stick for 2024, low kick point and also mid kick point, crown goes to Warrior Hockey. Now, something that's a bit different is I also included a poll on Instagram where I asked you guys what you thought was the best stick of 2024, or essentially the best stick manufacturer of this year. And you guys voted the Bauer Tracer as the most votes out of all of the sections that I gave you. But why that stick, although it ranked very highly in the stick ranking video that Tommy did, the reason that didn't take the crown is because it went soft. If that stick had maintained its durability and its stiffness, that would easily be the best stick of 2024. So I just wanted to mention that that's how you guys voted. You guys voted the Bauer Tracer as the best stick of 2024. And second to that, which goes really in line with what I've just said, was the Warrior Novium 2 Pro and then the Warrior QR6 Pro. So you can see that what we're saying Kind of fits closely to what you guys voted for online. And if you're not on Instagram, link down below to follow us on there. Now the next category, and easily the best one for me, is going to be the best skate of 2024. Similar to the sticks, skates are very subjective, it's down to fit, but a lot of that has changed over years as manufacturers have kind of done away with EEE, C fits and just gone for wide, tapered and regular. When we did the skates reviews that we've looked at over the whole course of the year, the 3 skates that we've seen come out this year is the True Catalyst 9X4s, the CCM Tax XF Pros, and of course the Bauer Shadow Skates. If you watched the video where I compared all 3, I said the Bauer Shadow Skates were like a manual race car that you had to rev match. So those skates essentially had the longest break-in time and adjustment period for you to be able to kind of find your footing and understand how the skates performed to be able to use them to the max of their ability and capacity essentially. But that also means that if the player isn't experienced enough to learn how to do that, they're never going to be getting the most out of those skates. Now from there, in terms of the True Catalyst skates, the 9X4s, I said that those were kind of a happy medium. It wasn't a fully automatic pair of skates or car in this case, but you still had to do a little bit of break-in, a little bit of adjustments, and those skates absolutely had to be baked to ensure that you got the most out of the performance and also the fit and comfort. Same with the Bauers, of course you want to bake those, but it wasn't as obvious with the Bauer skates. A lot of players will jump on with those skates and just get on the ice. Baking them, changing the footbeds, that type of stuff will have a big impact on how the skates perform. But out of all of the skates that were released this year, True's Catalyst skates absolutely required baking to be able to get on with them on the ice. Now, from there it was the CCM XF Pros from the Tax range. These were essentially automatic. You could just take them straight out the box, and because of the Game Ready 2.0 fit, you could just crack on the ice without any problems whatsoever. What we see here is CCM essentially did something a bit sneaky with the way that those skates were built. They had the refinements of the foams and the liners set to such a ridiculously high standard that pretty much anyone putting those skates on would feel like they were surrounded by pillows around their feet. Super comfortable, really nice out of the box fit. True, like I said, they were good, the liners were great, the foams are great, but you needed to bake them to really feel the advantages of the comfort. Similar story with the Bauers, but not so much. Now, that's why the ranking of this, I feel, is a bit tricky, because what we're going for is what pair of skates would fit the majority of players. If you've got 100 random hockey players and they got in a pair of skates and they were blindfolded, they would say, these are the most comfortable, these are the best performing. Basically, from what I've said over there, that order goes the XF Pros, the True 9X4s from the Catalyst range, and then the Bauer Shadow Skates. Now this ranking might be different for yourself, but if we do it as a consensus out of the durability that we've experienced with these skates, the fit and how they would perform for a majority of players, it does mean that the XF Pros from CCM does take the crown in this category. Now, I have to throw this out there because that's not how I would rank them. I have to do these ranking videos in accordance to what the majority of people would go for and what we've experienced with durability, fit and comfort for the masses. If it was me picking, it would be the True Catalyst 9X4s, then the XF Pros from CCM, then the Shadow Skates, because they were the ones that I had the longest break-in time, the most breakdown in usage in terms of the structure of the skate and it getting soft over a period of time. And then it was the CCMs, then it was the Trues. So if I was ranking it personally, it would be True, CCM, Bauer. But in terms of what makes sense from all of the feedback that we've collected over the course of the year, it goes CCM, True, and then Bauer. Now, in terms of how you, the audience, voted, you guys actually went in the exact same order in terms of the winner, which was the CCM XF Pros. The XF Pros beat the Bauer Shadow Skates by 2%. And the True Skates were at, I think, 16% versus the other two, which were in the 40s. This kind of goes in line with what I'm saying to a point in terms of the XF Pros being the easiest skate to get on with. But of course, nowhere near as many people are in True Skates that are in Bauers or CCMs. Now that's not to mention that they're not as good. It's just some of the early skates True produced had a lot of breakdown issues, had a lot of holder separation issues, and I feel a lot of people have lost confidence with them. But in terms of what they're producing now with the new Catalyst range, it's in a lot of areas much better than what we see from the other two mainstream manufacturers. I just wanted to mention that. Now from there, we're going to look at design. Now this is a big one because this is what essentially motivates us to buy something. It has to look pretty. This year we've seen a lot of stick designs, but they're all very similar. Everyone kind of decided that they're going to make a white version of their stick for the winter period. We saw this with the Trigger 9 Pro from CCM. We saw this with the Novium 2 Pro from Warrior. And of course, Bauer, I have to give them credit because they do their own thing. The Twitch, I think, is probably the best looking stick that's been released this year, and the different color variations that they released for that stick as well, I thought were even better. Bauer are very good at creating really nice bespoke designs for their sticks. And of course they offer custom stick designs and custom sticks, which a lot of manufacturers can do, but don't promote and don't push. So it is nice that Bauer do that. So I have to give them credit for that. But in terms of who takes the crown for design, I think the only reason that I have to give it to CCM is because of the Tacks 652 skates that they released to pay homage to the original CCM Tacks skates, which were called the Tackleberry Tacks. And if you've not seen that video, I'll link it down below, where I really briefly touch on the history of where the Tacks name came from with CCM. Seeing them pay homage to an old school skate in essentially the shell and construction of a brand new skate was awesome. It's something that I wish manufacturers would do more of. I would love to see one of the brands create a leather looking boot, but it be composite, just with like a leathery skin on top of it. I think that would be sick. And I know a lot of people are really big fans of seeing something that doesn't look like what we typically see on the ice. So for the design award for 2024, that goes to CCM. Now, the next one is going to be the most affordable and best protective. In terms of, I'm going to touch on how you guys voted on Instagram first. You went Sherwood as the lowest, Warrior next, Bauer, and then CCM. Now, of course, True also make protective. They did stop and then they started again, so I understand why that one wasn't really mentioned inside the polls. But based off of the way you voted, I do agree to a degree. I think CCM, in my opinion, and in yours from the votes, is making the best affordable and also the best protective in general. But I have to mention Sherwood. Not a lot of people have seen Sherwood's new protective, and I'm talking about the Code protective. That protective is insane. The shoulders, in my opinion, are the best shoulder pads or shoulder guards or whatever you call them that I have seen. The adjustability of them is leagues above anything else that we've seen, and also the way that the strap systems work. So in terms of the protective that Sherwood is making, I think more people need to be exposed to it. The shorts, for me, weren't as great as what we see from the other manufacturers, but I just wanted to mention that if you've not seen Sherwood's protective from 2024, it's worth taking a look at because they're doing things a lot more differently to the other brands, and in a lot of ways, it works much better. But like you guys have voted, I completely agree with the way you voted online. The crown for the best and most affordable protective goes to CCM. Now, next is going to be the most affordable stick brand. Now, this is a topic that was one of the biggest topics that we filmed for the 2024 period. And that's because as well as all of the big manufacturers produce incredible sticks, the prices, as we always say, are out of control. So we dedicated a large portion of the year that's just passed to looking at other brands that we don't typically feature on the channel. That included the new brand KYC Hockey, Barrel Hockey, Blade Tech Hockey with their sticks, and of course they make the blades as well, you guys probably know them for that, and lastly Swift Hockey as well. All of these manufacturers all essentially claim to do the same thing, which is making sticks that can arguably perform as well as the big name brands with the big prices, but at a fraction of the price. Now, in terms of the way you guys voted online, the best and most affordable stick brand, in your opinion, was KYC Hockey. I strongly agree with that, but there is a caveat. They're based in North America, which means you do have to factor in the cost of getting the stick to your country if you are not in North America. If you're in the Czech Republic, the UK, Ireland, then the cost of shipping one of those sticks over the Atlantic Ocean is going to have an impact on the price. Now, we have to base what we call affordable sticks based on the price that the manufacturer sells it at. Because at the end of the day, shipping, customs, duties, that has nothing to do with the people that are producing the stick. So we 100% agree in terms of the most affordable stick and the best performing stick of 2024, that definitely goes to KYC Hockey. But special mention definitely has to go to Barrel Hockey, who are based in Latvia, because if you are in this part of the Atlantic Ocean, if you're across the pond, you're not in North America, and you're trying to find a stick that can perform like the big name brands but isn't as expensive, Barrel Hockey are where you need to be looking at. We've done a bunch of videos on them, VSing them against some of the more household, much more expensive stick brands that you guys know of, and they really do perform incredibly well. They were mentioned in the stick ranking video that we did with Tommy. We're not saying that these sticks are the best performing sticks on the planet, but the performance of them beats and outperforms a large number of much more expensive sticks. If you watch the stick ranking video, you'll be able to see exactly which sticks that is. I'll link all of those down below, but I had to give a special mention to Barrel Hockey because KYC is great, but they're in North America. In terms of their availability in Europe, that is going to be changing come January of 2025, but I had to give Barrel Hockey a special mention. Next category, and this was a recommendation from one of our subscribers on Instagram, and that is biggest disappointment. I don't normally like to do a category like this. I normally name it something a bit more 2024 woke. And that is the Redemption Award. I try to essentially make it nice and fluffy and cute so it doesn't sound as brutal, but this year it's got to be done. The biggest disappointment of 2024 is Bauer's Pro Sharp skate sharpener. Now, regardless of what your opinion about my feedback is, there's my opinion and my review, and then there's fact. Now, we know no one that has one of those machines that hasn't had to return it. No one. Bear in mind the network of players, stores, equipment managers, teams that we know and work with in the background. No one still has their machine. It's had to go back for God knows what reasons. And 99.9% of the reasons are what I covered in the review as my concerns for this machine. In my opinion, it was released not even a year too early, 2 years too early. There was a lot of adjustments and fine tuning that needed to be done to make it even worth comparing to the Sparks. So for me, the biggest disappointment of 2024 with all of the products that I've seen is Bauer's sharpener. All of the videos that we filmed like this, we've included this category, which is the most improved company. When we look at all of the big brands, everyone has made leaps in one direction, but almost taken a step back in another. With CCM, their skates this year are hands down the best, same with their protective, but the sticks, the durability is hit and miss. When we look at Bauer, similar story. Skates, incredible. The shadow skates I thought were phenomenal, but I explained what I wasn't comfortable with or didn't like about those skates in my review as well. Now, when we look at their sticks, durability, definitely questionable, and how quickly their sticks go soft, big problem. Sherwood smashed it with their protective. Shorts could use some improvements, the elbow pads as well, but the sticks, again, the stiffness just seemed to be much stiffer than anything else with the similar flex profile as what we see from the other manufacturers. And also that is indirectly going to affect the feel for the puck, which is then going to affect the ability to be able to load the stick and unload it during shots. So those issues would be great to see corrected as we move forward. And of course, not neglecting true hockey out. Sticks, durability questionable, performance of the skates, unreal. The Catalyst skates are some of the best skates I've ever seen produced, period. Now, when we look at the only manufacturer, the big one that's not been named, is Warrior. Now, Warrior have a lot of interesting things coming for the next year. We'll touch on that, early 25. But if we compare what they produced last year to this year, both of their categories of sticks in terms of the ones that we've reviewed on the channel. Alpha, different story, we'll touch on that in 2025. But they are the only company out of the household names that we have seen massive improvements as we go towards the end of 2024. So the most improved company from 2024 goes to Warrior Hockey. Now, next is going to be the best innovation of 2024. Now, a lot of the times you guys know that this has gone to the Sparks machine, and now more than ever with what happened with the Advantage, I feel like I should even give it to Sparks again, but I think I've kind of made my point with that. And it's nice for a new company to be creating something. I'm sorry about constantly ragging on Bauer, by the way. I can't help myself sometimes. Stop giving me reasons, Bauer. Stop giving me reasons. Best newcomer for 2024 is a product that we haven't previously seen before. I've explained this in some videos. I get excited over weird stuff now. Skates, it's great to get new skates, but it's kind of like, okay, what's going to be new with these? And that's kind of where the interest stops. Sticks, no interest at all. That's Tommy. But for me, it's the accessories that I love. Helmets, sharpeners, bags. That's the stuff that gets me most excited. And this year we saw 43 degrees hockey bag, the heated hockey bag that dries your equipment, reduces bacteria buildup inside the bag, helping your gear to not only not stink, but also last longer, and for you to have dry gloves, dry skates, dry pads every time you step into your equipment, which I think is something that any hockey player would love. And it doesn't have wheels. So I think that goes a long way with a lot of you guys out there. But my point is, I think this is something that we hadn't seen before that is definitely needed. You guys might remember the days of the rocket dryers, that tent that you'd hang your equipment up into for it to dry. It seems a lot more practical to incorporate that into the thing that carries our equipment everywhere. So for me, the best innovation of 2024 goes to 43 degrees heated hockey bag. Best newcomer. Now, we've seen some cool products created in 2024, but I think the one that is kind of the talk of the town, and you guys, a lot of you guys, I say a lot of you guys, it's probably less than 0.1% of you guys. Some of you thought we were just hyping them up until you guys started to buy the sticks from KYC. KYC unequivocally gets the crown for the best newcomer of 2024 because at the start of the year, no one knew who they were. And now at the end of the year, you guys are picking them and outranking them compared to a lot of the other manufacturers that are out there. So in terms of the best newcomer, I know it's a stick company, but best newcomer for 2024, hands down goes to KYC Hockey. Now the next one is the Humanization Award. Now, we know with the hockey brands that are out there, hockey companies, manufacturers, a lot of them seem like faceless and sometimes soulless entities. You don't have a face or a team of people to relate to that logo or that brand or the products that they make. Some brands in the past have done a really good job of humanizing their brand. Bauer actually won it a few years back. Now, in terms of the way that they act on social media now, we see a lot of their athletes and creators, but we don't see any of the people that actually work for Bauer. Same thing with CCM, same thing with Warrior as well. But when we look at companies like True, we do get to see a lot of faces behind the company who produce the products that we know and love. Similar story with Sparks as well. It's always great to see the teams, the faces behind the people making the equipment that we love. Now, in terms of who takes the crown for humanizing their brand and their company, that has to go to Blaytech Hockey and also Hockey Wraparound. They do the best jobs of humanizing their companies, creating a real community around it and communicating directly with their community, which is something that you don't see a lot of. As Lee would say, these two companies do a great job of talking with their audience rather than talking at them, which really shows on social media. So for me, the most humanizing brands that are out there in 2024 goes to Blaytech and also Hockey Wraparound. Now, another category that we've always done is the best and most accessible off-ice training aid. Now, every year, this goes to Hockey Wraparound because it is by far the most useful product that any hockey player can have, regardless of where they are in the world, to be able to practice, to play street hockey, to work on their shooting, their stick handling, their hockey sense. It's one of those products that is just incredibly universal and requires minimal cost and effort to be able to attach it to your stick and get out there and start playing hockey without essentially ruining your sticks and costing you more money. So every year, that unequivocally goes to Hockey Wraparound, but something I do have to mention, but it's not the most affordable, but it has to get a special mention, is NHL Sens Arena. This is an expensive product to have because you need to have the VR goggles or the VR headset to be able to have. But in terms of most accessible, it is incredibly accessible and it allows players to work on their cognitive hockey sense, which is something training aids don't allow you to do. You're able to work on specific key skills, but not on your cognitive sense that is required to be a good athlete on the ice. So if you're looking at the accessible and also affordable line, Hockey Wraparound takes the cake and the crown with this section, but a special mention has to go to NHL Sens Arena for being one of the most accessible and essential development tools that any hockey player could get their hands on. Now from there is going to be another category that was a recommendation on Instagram from one of you guys, and that is going to be the best second price point skates. Now I don't even have to think about this. This goes to the True Catalyst 7X4s, because unlike any other skates that I've ever come across in recent times, the shell of the 9X4s, which is True's Catalyst top spec skate or their flagship model skate, is the exact same shell that is on the model below, which is the 7X4s. Never seen this before. Next up from that would be CCM's XF Pros. One model below that is the XFs. The shell is incredibly similar to what we see in the XF Pros, but it doesn't have the Force composite construction. Instead, it's using the same composite construction that we saw in the FT6 Pros. So again, this is essentially a top or elite level shell in a second price point skate, which is something that we haven't come across prior to this. But if you're asking which of the two is the better pick, it's going to be True's Catalyst 7X4s that takes the cake for the best performing and essentially best skate that you can get at a second price point. But as always, special mention, I have to give it to SMU skates in general. That's a topic I know that only really impacts North America because those skates, for whatever reason, are not available in Europe. I don't know why, but manufacturers, I know you guys are watching, make those skates available in Europe because you will sell them. They make sense. Those skates don't get enough airtime. They don't get discussed enough online. SMU skates are something that we are really going to focus on in 2025. So just wanted to give them a special mention. Last but not least is going to be the most underrated product of 2024. Now, you guys kind of went ham in the comment section on Instagram, letting me know what you thought was the most underrated product of 2024, including Durex Lube. Whoever you are, I'm not going to shout you out, but I had to mention that one. For me, I think there's a lot of underrated products. I'm not gonna lie, there's loads, and there's a lot that I'd like to go through. From TrueFit custom mouth guards, that's gonna be a big one for myself. A mouth guard is something every hockey player should be using, and getting a custom one that doesn't blow your bank up makes sense. To some of the visor cage combos that I've seen recently released, some of the most comfortable helmets I've used, like the CCM X helmet, which is a custom one. I'm not the retail one, the custom one. But I think for me, and this is a theme in this video, it's gonna have to be True's Catalyst skates. I know that there have been issues in the past with what they have produced with the holder separation, with the rust, with the breaking down. But for me, this is one of the best entire lines of skates that I've seen produced, from the flagship model all the way down through the models below. I feel like a couple of players have had bad experiences. Of course, word travels fast in the hockey community. So people are kind of like, no, Bauer and CCM with skates. We know that's going to change soon because there's a new player coming into the game. But I think True is a brand that has really stepped up what they're producing. And it's the reason that right now, today, I'm using the True 9X4s. I could be in the 7X4s, but I prefer the 9X4s because I think they look cooler. But True as a whole, Catalyst range, I think, is probably the most slept on in terms of the course of the last year. And I hope that's something that players will be willing to change and take a look at moving into 2025. But as always, guys, a big thank you for watching this video all the way to the end, taking a look at the Hockey Tutorial Gear Awards of 2024. Of course, we're going to be doing one of these next year. The beginning of 2025, we have a lot of trips to North America. I can't tell you what we're going to be looking at just yet, but I can't wait to share it with you as soon as we do get there. So stay tuned. Thank you for all the love and support. I hope you guys had a good Christmas, a happy new year moving forward, and I will catch you in 2024. Take care. Of course, I f***ed that up. One take the whole thing and then right at the end say the wrong damn year. Oh my God.